Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I am recording this episode here in Paradise Valley, Arizona, where my wife and I are staying. I've got a great view of the city here. We're up on a hill. The weather's beautiful. It's a little cool today. I'm actually still wearing my Kuyu shorts, but had a good hike today and really enjoying being here. We left Colorado around mid-November, and we've just really enjoyed coming back to the sunshine. Had a great sheep hunt with Logan Hall, and Dar Colburn is down in Mexico right now with a group of Coues deer hunters, and I'm headed down here roughly in about a week and look forward to getting down to Mexico. I thought I would answer a bunch of listener questions and Instagram follower questions, and I always love interacting with you guys. So let's just dive right into it. First question, it says, Jay, I know you're not into javelina, but I love hunting those little things. Can you do an episode on javelina? Yes, I'll try and do a javelina episode, maybe something that'll air beginning of February. One of the interesting things about javelina is I'm around them a lot. I don't actually hunt them very much. I've spent so much time down in Mexico the month of January, pretty much all of January the last 21 years, that I just don't, the timing doesn't work out to get to hunt them myself. But the funny thing is I'm actually around javelina virtually every day that I'm in Mexico. It's very rare to go a day without seeing them down there. And they're really, really cool animals. If you haven't seen them or hunted them, I highly recommend it. It is they're a great spot and stock animal. They really can't see very well at all. They have a really good nose, and they hear pretty darn good as well. But they're a great archery target. They're a great animal for first-time hunters, youth hunters, just people you're trying to get into the sport, because normally, they're out during the day. They're not as finicky as deer. Usually they're out in the wide open. If you can find prickly pear, any type of roots, they love rooting stuff up. They love prickly pear, and down in the Sonoran Desert, the javelina are pretty much prevalent everywhere. And they're a neat animal because they're out during the day. You can spot them from a long ways off with binoculars, and you can move in. They're not necessarily extremely wary. They have a great nose, so you definitely have to stay downwind. But I know a lot of people that really enjoy hunting them. I know my friend Brian Rimza, he likes to go every single year, and that guy's literally shot everything under the sun, and he still likes to hunt them every year. But just a neat animal, especially a really cool animal for bow. But I highly recommend anyone that hasn't javelina hunted, get out there and get after them. There's a question here that says, what is needed to hunt in Mexico? Really, contractually, you have to have a contract with a Mexican owner or Mexican outfitter. So the way that Mexico does their tags, it's all private land, and the way they do their tags is landowners can go in and get their ranch registered. Once they get it registered, they are a certified, what we would call like outfitter or owner of property that is allowed to give landowner tags, so to speak. And all you have to do is have a contract with a Mexican owner. You have to run your gun permit through and get it from the Mexican military. And most of the time, the Mexican landowners that have gotten the ranches registered, gotten an UMA registration number, know where to get the guns registered. And then a good attitude. I say that with a thumbs up, because Mexico is an amazing place. And this will be my 21st season in Mexico, going down for Coues deer hunting in Sonora, Mexico. Done a little bit in Chihuahua as well, but most all of the hunting I've done is in Sonora, Mexico, and it's just an amazing place. December, January, early February, the weather is usually awesome. You're typically got mornings in the 20s. It usually warms up into the 60s during the day, and it's just a super fun time to hunt. And then the Coues deer, the month of January, especially in the middle of January, are rutting, And it's really the only opportunity we get as Coues deer hunters to get to hunt those animals while they're rutting. And you take an animal that's so wary and so hard to find, and they let their guard down a little bit, especially during the rut. Question, ever hunted South Dakota muleys looking at hitting the southwest part of the state? No, I haven't. Thanks for the question, but I have not hunted in North Dakota or South Dakota. Says, Sonoran Coues deer hunt mid-January. What would be your gear list? Well, first and foremost, my 15 by 56 Swarovskis, my Swarovski 95 millimeter spotting scope, my slick carbon fiber tripod, a Kuyu 7000 Ultra Pack or 7200 Icon Pro, my Kuyu 145 Merino zip tees. The one thing I like about the zip tee is that it comes up a little bit higher around my neck, and so I'm pretty fair skinned, and so as much coverage as I can get from my clothing and my gear from the sun, I try and take advantage of that. And I like that 145 zip tee, and I zip it all the way up and try and get as much sun protection as I can. Also a Peloton 240 hoodie, and they also make just a Peloton 240. I always try and go with the hoodie if it's offered. Again, I feel like it gives that little bit of added extra warmth, and I feel like it also gives me sun protection. If I'm glassing, I can always pull that hood up, and it provides me shade, and it provides, the sun isn't just pounding on the back of my neck. The Super Down Pro jacket is always in my backpack. This will be the first year down in Mexico that I've been able to use the Pro, because they just came out with it. Before that, it was the Super Down Ultra. And using that Super Down Ultra, I just love that jacket. It's so lightweight. Again, I go with the hooded version, but that Super Down Pro is double the insulation. It's just for me, it's a much warmer piece. It's a little bit heavier for sure, but the extra insulation for me is worth it. I typically can get cold fairly easy, so that Super Down Pro and Super Down Pro jacket and pants. The pants are phenomenal. You get those real cold mornings. I was using them on the /6 when we'd had 4 to 6 inches of snow on the ground. Those pants make all the difference in the world when you're glassing. Now, you don't want to wear necessarily the Super Down Pro jacket and pants hiking, because down is not a material that breathes very well, but it is a phenomenal piece of gear. So that's going to be in my pack, as well as the guide glove, the 145 net gaiter. And the net gaiter primarily is also to keep the sun off my face. I usually wear the net gaiter pulled up kind of right up underneath my nose and across, so basically across my cheek line, and just try and stay out of that sun as much as possible. Then a 240 beanie. I love that beanie. I have several of them. I wear them all the time. I wear them hiking early in the morning here in Arizona, and I wear them all over. I wear them hunting. I just really like that piece of gear. Then I just wear an Kuyu Icon cap. Another piece of gear is a phone scope adapter. Phone scope adapter is always on my iPhone 10. That's what I take my videos and my photos with, that you see on my Instagram. Don't forget, Phone Scope is a sponsor of the podcast, and if you use the JScott 18 promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. Also, onX Maps this year is a new addition for me for gear in Mexico. I'm using the onX Maps feature for my ranches down in Mexico. Now, interesting, I had it last year, but I actually didn't think about it working, but the topo portion of the onX map in Mexico does not work, but what does work is the aerial portion. And it's nice to be able to do all my work on Google Earth and then save those folders on my desktop and then import them into my onX map desktop version. And then once I import them on my onX map desktop version, they automatically transfer onto my phone app on my iPhone 10, and then I have all the roads, water tanks, boundary fences, glassing points, all the points of interest right there on my phone. And I was down a couple weeks ago scouting in Mexico, and man, it was awesome to be able to know where everything was and be able to zoom in. And the other thing I do is I go in and I save on the highest resolution, which is you have a choice. I think it's 5 mile, 10 mile, and maybe 50 mile resolution, and I do the highest resolution. So some of the ranches, it takes 2, 3, 4 maps to save. But then once you get down there, you don't need phone service, and you can zoom in really tight, and you can look at ridges, you can look at glassing points, you can look at canyons. You can, if you've got a buck on an opposite ridge, you can pull it up if you don't know what's on the other side. It's just an awesome tool. So hopefully that answers your question. Also, trekking poles. I don't go anywhere, don't go on any hunts anymore without trekking poles. Says, with Kuyu discontinuing the Peloton briefs, do you anticipate them coming out with Ultra Merino briefs? I don't know, to be honest with you. I'd have to ask them that question. I know Jason surrounded himself with some phenomenal people there at Kuyu, and innovation never rests. Jason used to always say that, and I know that Brendan and Sean and some of the guys over there at Kuyu definitely have something up their sleeve. I just don't know what it is, but it's a good question. Question here, 10 by 42 or 10 by 50 Swarovski ELs for Montana mule deer hunt. I would say both are fantastic. The 10 by 50 is going to have an exit pupil of 5, whereas the exit pupil on the 10 by 42s is going to be a little bit smaller at 4.2. I think for hand holding wise, the 10 by 42s are probably going to be a little bit better, at least with my hands. My hands have just a little bit of shake, a little bit of vibration to them. So the 1042 would probably be my choice for muleys in Montana. Question here, the most tool thing a client has done when you're guiding, ever had to dump a client mid-hunt? The answer is I've been blessed for 20 years with great clients. If the client has a bad experience, I consider that the guide's fault. Even though there can be some people that can be difficult to deal with, I think one of your roles as a guide, one of the reasons you get paid, quote unquote, the big bucks, is you have to be able to handle those situations. You have to be able to communicate with people. And, if they're doing something that is just not tolerated or not to be tolerated, and messing up the group dynamic or what have you, if you're guiding with other people in camp, you just need to take the guy aside and you need to have a conversation, and you need to tell them that everybody needs to be a grown up and everybody needs to get along. Usually if you can communicate well and you can take charge and take control of a situation, that usually cuts down on any problems, but virtually had no problems over the last 20 years. Says, how do you develop relationships with Mexican ranchers? It's been 20 years of doing what I say and doing what I promise and honoring my commitments. Getting my deposits in on time, getting my my final deposits, however the payments need to be made, handling the property as if it was mine, taking care of the people that work on the ranches, and just trying to have a good relationship. I've been very, very fortunate over the last 20 years to have some very good relationships. I've got some that are 20 years long, and I do that by being straight up, being honest. I've had lots of situations where, say, we've hunted property for years, and finally after years of hunting it, the decline, the quality of deer maybe, or something like that, where I just have to come to the owner and I have to lay it out there straight. And sometimes that means them saying, well, I still want to do the 6 tags on the ranch, and I understand what you're saying, but that's what I want to do. And sometimes that means me moving on and finding other ranches and what have you. But then there's sometimes when the ranchers say, I know you guys shoot quality deer. I know, the U.S. hunters want to come and have a great experience, and they want to be chasing, 100-inch deer plus. And so I get it, and let's amend these tags back, and let's drop it down to 3 or 4 tags for a couple years, or let's do some predator control, or certain things that they can do on there, and maybe run a few less cattle that make it for better deer hunting. So I've always found that communicating the best that I can with the owners is the best way to handle it, and be upfront. Say, listen, we could hunt 8 or 10 deer on this property for a couple years, but you're literally going to wipe the property out, and then I'm not going to want to be here, nor is any other outfitter. And we're better off doing say 5 or 6 tags, and four or 5 tags, whatever it may be, and hunting this thing for the next 15 years. But if you over hunt a property, you can very quickly shoot a property out. So it's important to have a good relationship with your ranch owners. It says, what do you find most challenging on a remote solo hunt? I got to be honest, I don't do much solo hunting. I like hunting with friends. I don't really get into the solo thing. I love scouting by myself, and I love glassing by myself. But as far as going somewhere just completely by myself, hunting to me is a community deal. I love going with my hunting partner, Dar Colburn. I love going with other friends and family and such. And it's to me, it's not about getting off by myself. It's about working together to find big deer, big elk, big sheep, whatever it may be, and hunting with people that you're just as happy if they harvest something big and giant as if you shoot it yourself. And I've had people over the years hear me say that, and they're just like, "Oh, bull, you want to shoot a big one?" Yeah, of course, I want to shoot the biggest thing that I can and have a great hunt. But there's nothing like having a long relationship with friends. And when Dar shoots something big, I'm more happy that he shot it than I am, and I work harder to find him a big deer than I probably would for myself. So it's just fun to do it that way. So hats off to those guys that really love that solo stuff. It's just not really my gig. It says, how do I locate coups in new areas, especially in January? Again, it's pretty simple. My strategy and tactics, as well as I feel like Dar's strategy and tactics of finding new places and finding new deer, is just get up and glass, see new knobs, get up on new ridge lines, get up in new country, and just look in new bowls and new canyons, and just cover country. Look at the maps, your Google Earth maps, your Onyx maps, and mark out points, and just say, I'm just going to go glass off that point in the morning and see what I see. And at that point you'll evaluate and say, man, very low deer density, didn't see anything, I need to be over on that point, and just bounce around. So many people, I think that it's some big secret. It's really not. It's like, get up and see what your eyeballs tell you. Drive around to water holes and check tracks and check sign, and just see what you can find as far as numbers, and then try and spread out from there and see if you can find something old and mature, something giant. That's how we do it. There's really no secret. You just got to keep moving till you find them. It says, are there only Coues deer in Mexico, or are there whitetails too? Actually, Mexico has a number of types of deer, but the Coues deer are my favorite. They also have the croaky mule deer. They also have the typical Sonoran, what I would call more like our Rocky Mountain mule deer down by Hermosillo. The big wide, big deer. And then you've got the croaky deer, which normally about 170-inch croaky. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's Crooki. Those bucks usually, the biggest ones will be 170, maybe 180, whereas some of those Hermosillo deer get 220, 230, big deer. There's also, there's Carmen Mountain whitetail, there's deer in Coahuila, there's deer in there's tons of deer in Mexico, but I focus primarily on Coues deer. Here's a question: best part of the season for Dall sheep hunting. I've got some bullet points here. Flying in a super cub, to and from the hunting area was absolutely phenomenal. And even flying some of the bigger planes into, say from Norman Wells into the Arctic Red River Base Camp. Smaller plane, not as small as a Super Cub, but just amazing countryside out there, and it's really cool to see it from a bird's eye view. But the best part of Dall sheep hunting to me is getting to see that incredible, crazy country, and then getting to be around some of these amazing guides and some of these people that have just a true passion for Dall sheep. And I was with Al Clausen there at Arctic Red River, and I think he's killed 22 sheep himself, and like 140. I think it's 104. He's been on 140 Dall sheep kills. It's just amazing to see the passion that he has, and the sparkle and the twinkle in his eye when he's looking for a Dall sheep, much like I do for Coues deer or desert sheep. The area that we tend to grow up in and live in, we have just a passion for those animals, and that was one of the things that I really liked on the Dall sheep hunt, as well as like Lance Kronberger and his guides there in Alaska. Just awesome guides, just really awesome guides that really knew what they were doing and were energetic and just fired up to go look for Dall sheep. And then just getting to enjoy God's creation is an amazing thing. Question here. What kind of food is in your pack for a day in the field? It probably depends on what hunt it is. But I would say like Pro Bars. I found that I like the peanut butter Pro Bar. The almond coconut is a good one. The banana nut, and then those superfruit. I like all of those different flavors. And I like macadamia nuts. I like both salted and unsalted. All types of jerky and beef sticks. I love a good salami sandwich, just dry with good pepper jack cheese, just dry on a piece of bread. And then sometimes I'll eat a Pop-Tart or granola bars and lots of water. That's all I drink. Question here, do you ever get tired of people asking about units instead of just glassing? I think the question refers to people that are asking me places and spots and areas to go instead of just getting out and glassing on their own. I don't mind it at all. I know that when I'm hunting a new area or a new state or a new unit or whatever, I ask all kinds of questions to people as well. I try and call other outfitters. I try and call Forest Service, BLM, whoever will talk to me. So I don't mind the questions at all. The one thing I just need to point out, like I said before, is a lot of the great hunters that I've been around, they just go out and do it. They just go out and get up on a high knob, and they just use their eyes, and maybe during the day they're down checking water holes, looking at tracks. I mean, tracks don't lie. So you're up there, you're glassing, and then you're down checking tracks on water. I mean, if you're finding tracks and then that there's animals there. If you're not finding tracks and you're not seeing animals off high points, then you probably need to move on. So, any good books or advice for learning how to invest money? That's a good question. I've never been one to think that you can get a ton of value out of a book. And let me back up by saying there's a lot of great books out there that you can learn a lot of stuff, and I'm highly sensitive to trying to tell people not to learn, because that's not what I'm saying. You got to watch the guys that are selling a book, the guys that are selling a tape, the guys that are selling a podcast where you've got to, sign up to be a member, where you've got to, sign up for the premium membership, those kind of things, because they're trying to sell you something. But to answer the question, there's Robert Kiyosaki did a Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I think he just paints a perfect analogy of two different upbringings, of upbringing with a rich dad and upbringing with a poor dad, and the different philosophies that they have. And I think people sometimes get their mindset wrong, and then they end up living their whole life with a mindset that is negative, or that doesn't allow for growth, doesn't allow for a little bit of risk and a little bit of opportunity, and it doesn't allow for seizing an opportunity. So I would definitely recommend Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it sheds some light on some different things that I think a lot of people could take note of. The other thing is, I would ask people that are, you don't ask someone how to coos deer hunt that's never coos deer hunted. And you don't ask someone how to coos deer hunt who, hasn't been out there and harvested and, guided and hunted those animals a lot. So, I think some of the best advice you can get is from, maybe the 10 people that you look at that are the most well off, and take them to lunch and say, how do you invest your money? What do you do with your funds? How does your money grow? How do you spot a good investment? Now, it's kind of a funny thing because I always tell people, and it's not true all the time, but some of the smartest people I know are the worst people with money. Some of the smartest, doctors and lawyers and those type of people that make tons and tons of money, they don't know how to invest their money. They are good at being a doctor and making a ton of money, but they don't know how to invest money. So, don't just necessarily go to the most well-off people Maybe go to some of those people that have, middle income jobs, but they've been able to spread that money and make that money work for them. That would be some advice I'd give you. Question here, let's see. Why don't you have someone filming all of your hunts? Well, it's just one of those things that, early on we did quite a bit of filming with Steve Chappell on the Extreme Bull series, and we did an Extreme Coos. We even did an Extreme Gobblers DVD. I think Steve did a very, very good job filming those and editing those, and Dar and I just did it because we love to hunt, and it was a perfect opportunity to, film and share the passion that we have. I believe somewhat we were a little bit ahead of our time, meaning we were kind of doing videos and stuff when it was very, very early on. And probably if I was a lot younger when the video thing really got going here, say in the last, 5 to 10 years, I probably would have done a lot more videos than I did. But for me, it just comes down to, I feel like a lot of videos and such that are out there, it's, people are, trying to film their hunts. They're and this doesn't apply to everyone because I don't want to be misunderstood, because there are a lot of great videographers out there that are bringing value, but then I feel like there's a lot of the outdoor television and stuff. It's just guys trying to be famous, guys being fake, guys trying to film shows that they could literally care less about, trying to show fake stuff, trying to make the hunt different than it is, and it's just something I'm not interested in. I want to hunt hard. If anything, if I did videos, they would be instructional, they would be educational, they would try and bring people value that are watching, not just entertainment value. I'm not a very entertaining person, for one. I'm not a very entertaining person to talk to. I'm just, it's really not my thing, but I do love educating. I do love informing. I do love sharing things that I've learned. And I just really have no desire to be any type of celebrity. I have really no desire to be any, famous. Now, granted, with a lot of the stuff that I'm doing and that I've done, some of that comes my way, but it's very humbling. But that is absolutely not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to help others. Guy says, if I'm not seeing anything great on my deer hunt, should I just keep just keep grinding? And I would say, it's hard to say. Yes, keep grinding, but like if you're in just a crappy spot, you need to pick up and you need to move. Like if your goal is to see deer and you're not seeing them, you need to keep moving till you do. Now that doesn't mean that the deer aren't right under your nose and you're just not looking hard enough. But if you feel like you've pounded the country, there's no need to sit there and grind it out. Now, if there's a specific buck that you're looking for a big Kuster buck and he lives in that canyon or in a series of canyons, then yeah, you need to pound it out till you find and kill that buck. But if you're just not seeing deer, and this applies to any animals, if you're not seeing elk, if you're not seeing sheep, if you're not seeing bears, if you're not seeing what you're after, then yeah, move country, continue to move and continue to glass with diligence and persistence until you find the pockets and you find the areas where what you're looking for lives, and check tracks and just keep pounding. But definitely, if it's just a desert and just a ghost town, you need to move and find new country for sure. Best camera for digiscoping. Ever since they made the phone scope, and to be honest with you, these iPhone 6, 7, 8s, and 10s, they take such good video. I was real big early on, and some of the old digiscoping adapters that literally Dar and I were gluing PVC together and all sorts of stuff to get videos with the little cameras and such, and the little PowerShot Canon cameras and the little Sonys, and but ever since they made these phone scope adapters, it made it very, very easy. But I think even more than that is these phones now take such great photos. The quality and the ability to focus and the ability to take HD 4K video. I just don't see the need for having any sort of regular camera for digiscoping. Now, I will tell you that for years I used the Swarovski TLS TLS APO, so it's TLS APO adapter, and I used a Canon SL1, which is a lightweight little camera body, and was able to put that TLS APO adapter on top of my Swarovski spotting scope, and just an amazing results with that. But it's heavier, it's bulkier, and I don't focus as much on getting photos through my phone scope. I do more videoing, and it's just way easier with the phone scope to video. It says, do you ever call deer during the pre-rut or actual peak of the rut? I don't. I don't really mess with that, but I heard it works. I mean, doe bleeding, fawn in distress during the rut will bring in does, which then the bucks will follow. I know guys down in Sonora, Mexico do a lot of that, actually from a high-rack vehicle. They'll get up and really blow those doe distress calls, and the results that they tell me about are amazing. It's just not something that I've really ever been into that much. This one says, practicality, Jeep or side-by-side in the Sonoran desert. I'm going to say no doubt a side-by-side. For me, every Jeep that I've ever ridden in just rides like an absolute tank. I actually drive a Polaris Ranger Crew, so it actually will seat 3 across the front and 3 across in the back, so it'll actually take 6 people. It has the regular hauling capacity of a regular Ranger. I very rarely take 6 people, but I really like my Ranger. I have a good relationship, and I encourage anyone out there that's listening that lives in the Phoenix area. There's a guy named Nick Hayter, and Nick is the general manager of the Goodyear Ride Now Polaris, Ride Now Power Sports, and they have Polaris. They have basically every manufacturer for UTVs and ATVs, and he's a hunter. And I've actually gotten to know him over the last couple of years, and he's always taken care of me. I've sent a bunch of people his way. They're not a sponsor, they're not anything like that, but he's always taken care of me. He's taken care of other hunters. So, I mean, if you're a sportsman, if you're a fisherman, if you're a hunter, you're looking for a new quad, looking for an ATV, looking for, parts, tires, accessories, get a hold of Nick. He's the general manager. He runs the whole deal down there at Goodyear Ride Now Power Sports. Great guy, and I really like that Ranger crew. I like the ability to take 6 people if I need to, but it's really comfortable for 4. We load up in the morning, take our cooler, and we head off with our lunch, with our drinks, all our packs, everything. We go hunt all day out of the Ranger, and it's just I definitely say go with the Ranger. Says, ever see big coos bucks near desert sheep or in the same terrain, specifically in 24B and 22? Very rarely. To be honest with you, I've seen more coos deer bucks in 24 than 22. Question here says, Kuyu 15 or 30 degree bag. For most hunts, I'm taking the 30 degree bag. I took the 30 degree bag to the Northwest Territories for my Doll sheep hunt. I took the Kuyu Super Down 15 degree bag to the Chugach. I'm glad I did. The temperatures were a lot colder in the Chugach, and that sleeping bag worked perfect. I absolutely love the Kuyu down sleeping bags. They have a 0, a 15, and a 30. I actually only have the 15 and 30. I very rarely run into conditions where I would need the 0 bag. But super light, just very comfortable, great bags. Can't say enough about those bags. Now, one of the things too is like I could see myself wearing like the Kuyu long underwear bottoms, long underwear top, and I mean even some of the mid layers and even the Peloton 240 beanie, like, rather than taking the 0 bag, I'd rather layer up a little bit and use the 15 degree bag because it's going to be lighter, as well as I'd rather carry the 30 degree bag and wear some long underwear to sleep in, than carry the next size up bag. So that's just something to think about. Says Kuyu Axis or Guide jacket. The little that I've worn the Axis jacket, I was down wearing it scouting in Mexico. I just got the jacket. I really like the waterproof paneling. So in other words, picture the jacket and picture like the tops of your arms, your shoulders, the top of your hood, across the top of your back, over to your next shoulder and down your arms. Basically have the waterproof paneling. And then underneath that, it's a hybrid, so it's more of a breathable material, much like the Guide jacket. And then you've got the pit zip, so you can still wear the jacket when you're active. It also has a fleece type lining. It's going to be, in my opinion, the warmer piece than the Guide jacket. And I think they've really hit a home run on the gear that's needed for, it's going to keep you dry in most rain situations. Now, if you have continued rain, like just 48-hour downpour type stuff, obviously you're going to have to go to your Kuyu Chugach or your Kuyu Yukon rain gear. But for intermittent storms and active hunts where you're spot and stalking, and you can always use your pit zips, and I just think it's going to breathe and be a real nice piece. I'm taking mine down here for the month when I go down to coos deer hunt in January, and I'm looking forward to that Axis jacket. And the pants are phenomenal as well. Make sure to check it out, the Axis from Kuyu. Go to kuyu.com. Says, any experience with OTC in Unit 22, Arizona? Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's a fantastic unit. It's the reason I like it is it's incredibly diverse. You can go all the way up north by Payson, and you can have pine trees. You can have mid-range stuff. You can have you can go all the way down to the south and have desert, and you can use that Beeline Highway to access that, to travel up and down and have really good access to being able to switch terrain. And it has both mule deer and coos deer. So I think 22 is a phenomenal unit to hunt in the month of January on those OTC hunts, because you can be hunting muleys and coos sometimes in the same spot, or you can be hunting muleys in the morning and coos in the afternoon, or vice versa. It's a great, very versatile unit. Says, any thoughts on coos hunting in Chihuahua? There's some giant deer that come out of Chihuahua every year. Normally, the density is a little bit lower. From what I hear, a little bit more pockety in Chihuahua, but they for sure some big deer come out of Chihuahua. It's definitely a beautiful state, it's a great place. I love Sonora. I love Chihuahua. I love them both. Says, will the Coues deer typical and non-typical state record for AZ ever be broken again? I say absolutely. All records are made to be broken. I'm sure both of them will with given time. For sure. Absolutely. What's the best day pack with plenty of room and can still pack out an elk? I get that question a lot. I normally carry the Kuyu Icon Pro 7200 or the Kuyu Ultra 7000. And guys will say, well, that's not a day pack. Those packs are so lightweight that if you don't need the space, you can cinch the straps up and you don't even know it's there. But if you need the space, so I typically don't go with the smaller packs very much because, I'm carrying tripods, I'm carrying spotting scopes, I'm carrying my big eyes, I'm carrying all kinds of stuff. So, I typically always carry those 7,000 and larger cubic inch packs. Any experience hunting New Mexico for coos? Like over 20 years ago, I went one time with Cody Nelson and his friend Cody Goff. I believe both of them had tags over there in Unit 27 in New Mexico. Some absolutely beautiful country. I remember the deer numbers kind of being a little pockety. I know there's some big deer that come out of there. Normally, it's a little bit more pockety than say, Arizona, but I don't have a lot of experience. Question here, how do you archery hunt mule deer during the rut? Spot and stalk or sit water? The mule deer are a perfect spot and stalk animal. I think day in and day out, if you are able to sorry, the neighbor's dog's barking. If you can sit water consistently and be real consistent about actually sitting on water, I think you'll have a better chance day in and day out of having chances at bucks that are, not alarmed, not alerted. But definitely stalking mule deer is so fun. I hate for anyone to miss out on, not spot and stalking mule deer during the rut. But to be most efficient, I would say probably sitting a good water source is going to be your best chance. Says, what's the biggest coos you've killed or helped kill in Arizona? I haven't killed that many coos deer in Arizona, to be real honest with you. Nothing extremely big. I've helped out on, some mid-hundreds type stuff, low hundreds, mid-hundreds, 102s, 105s, those types of bucks. But for 20 years, I've focused most of my time in Sonora, Mexico, and, scouting and hunting and what have you, down there in Sonora. In Sonora, the biggest deer, 143 and 5/8 was Glen Hall's buck almost 20 years ago. I think it netted 138 and 5. It was just a giant buck that's only like 9.5 or 10 inches wide. Last year, Sean DeReamer's buck ended up officially grossing 142 inches. I've had handfuls of bucks in that 120 to 135 type range. My biggest deer personally is 133. Let's see, 133 and 6/8. I think it netted official 131. Just love big coos deer for sure. Says November elk bow, better odds. Sounds hard. Hunt water ? Glass spot and stock. Waste of time. Points. What do you think? I think sitting water is probably your highest success rate, whether you sit in a tree stand or sit in a ground blind. I think spot and stock late elk hunting is probably the most challenging thing you can do. They're extremely wary by that time of year, and they live in the thickest, nastiest country. They live in the brush, and it's really hard to sneak up on them. it's definitely not a waste of time, but expect, if you're going to do those late archery hunts, expect it to be a really big challenge. And sneaking up on in that manzanita and that mountain mahogany up on those elk is very, very difficult because it's very noisy. Question here says, which of the Kuyu zip-off bottoms are better for 5 to 20 degree mornings? That would be the Ultra Merino 210 zip-off bottoms. They're thicker than I believe it's the 145 zip-offs. Go with the 210 zip-offs. So you're gonna have a lot more warmth with that. Guys, I want to take a quick second here to thank the sponsors of this podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com, the optics department there in the gear shop. My friend Cody Nelson of 20 plus years is the optics manager. He's the new optics manager over there, and the guy really knows what he's talking about when it comes to optics and glassing. I call him the glassing guru, and I've done a number of series of podcasts with him on glassing and optics, and he just knows a lot about it. Being the glassing guru, he loves to have people call him up and talk to him about tripods and about binoculars and spotting scopes and rifle scopes and all of that. So if you have any optical needs at all there for your hunts coming up or for next fall, reach out to him at 702-847-8747. That's extension 2. You can also send him an email at optics@gohunt.com. You can also send an email cody@gohunt.com. That's CODY. Give him a call. I want to thank them for their sponsorship. I also want to tell you guys that the application periods are coming up for all of us across the western states. And if you go to gohunt.com/jscott, you can get a $50 GoHunt gear shop gift card for getting a membership at the GoHunt Insider. And the GoHunt Insider is what I use to apply all across the West. It is the best Western hunting resource for draw odds, for strategy articles. If any of you do-it-yourselfers out there, any of you guys that go on guided hunts, if you want to know what points it takes, if you want to try and find hidden gem units, low point units, 2, 3, 4 points for units, you can search by quality of animals, you can search by antler size, you can search by age class, you can search by there's all sorts of things that you can use the filter and search down and actually find some really cool hunts that are kind of slid under the radar. So make sure to go to gohunt.com/jscott and get that $50 GoHunt gift card. I also want to thank Kuyu Ultralight Hunting. That's Kuyu, that's KUIU.com, and Kuyu gear is what Dara and I use on all of our hunts. And they make the best ultralight hunting gear out there, whether it's backpacks, sleeping bags, tents, gear from head to toe that we wear. I was talking about the Super Down Pro and the Ultra and the Ultra, the Kenai Ultra, and the new Axis. And go to Kuyu.com, check them out. I want to thank them for their sponsorship. I also want to thank Canyon Coolers right here in Arizona. If you use the J Scott promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. They make some awesome coolers, from big ones to small ones, and everything in between. I'm going to be packing up the big Navigator, which you can actually put 4 elk quarters in, using that to go down to Sonora, Mexico with 2 weeks worth of food for my different trips. Go to canyoncoolers.com, use the JScott promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. I also want to thank phonescope.com, use the JScott18 promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. That's what I use on all my digiscoping on Instagram. And then last but not least, onxmaps.com. If you go to onxmaps.com and you use the JScott promo code, you're going to get a 20% discount there at onxmaps.com. I absolutely love Onyx. I use it at the Ot6 Ranch in Colorado. I use it down in Mexico. I use it here in Arizona. I just used it on the sheep hunt. You can text waypoints to your buddies. It's just an incredible tool. You can use the measuring tool. You can use the breadcrumb tool. You can use it on the desktop. You can use it on the app. One of the things I like is when you use it on the desktop and you make a bunch of marks and, glassing points and roads, it automatically just immediately transfers to your phone. So that's awesome. I want to thank the sponsors. I want to thank them for their support and making this podcast possible. I spend a lot of time on this podcast, and their support, they support me. And it allows me to devote as much time as I do to it. It's a question that says, would you rather hunt Dall sheep in Alaska or Kuyus in Mexico? Man, that's a tough choice, but Kuyus are always going to be the closest to my heart. I've grown up hunting them and just absolutely love that animal. I loved my time this year hunting Dall sheep, and I can't wait to go back and hunt Dall sheep here again someday. I had 2 hunts this summer. One in Alaska, one in Northwest Territories, and they're just an amazing, amazing animal. I think if I lived in the Northwest Territories or if I lived in Alaska and could hunt them more, I think they would very quickly be my favorite animal to hunt. But Kuyus deer probably are the closest ones to my heart right now. Question here says, if you had to choose antelope hunt with Craig Steele or javelina hunt with Eric Forrest, I'd say shoot. Both of them are great guys. I've had both of them on the podcast. They're both characters in their own right. Craig Steele's just an amazing dude, a wealth of knowledge, and is a very hard worker. Eric Forrest as well. Very, very hard worker, doing great in school. He goes to that other school down there in Tucson. We won't mention any names, but the same school that ASU just beat in the last football game. I won't talk about that too much, but like both of those guys, had them both on the podcast, and both would be fun to hunt with. Question here says, what score is a mule and Kuyus deer considered at a trophy buck? I think it totally depends on the person. A trophy's, in the eye of the beholder. But for me, 110-inch Kuyus deer and 190-inch mule deer, that's kind of where the threshold is for me, where they, in my eyes, they become a true trophy, for sure. Question, non-hunting question. Moving to Arizona January 1st, would you be buying or renting right now? Depends on how long you're planning to stay. We have historically low rates, interest rates, which are ticking up. But the home pricing has climbed very high since the bottom of 2011 as well. So we still have super low rates. I mean, you can still get rates below 5%. In some places are around 5%, and that's just crazy low. But I would say here in Arizona, the prices have really climbed since 2011. So, I think we are getting a little tippy, a little high. But if you have a long-term outlook and approach, 15, 20, 30-year outlook, I don't think you're going to get hurt. If you have a 1 or 2 year outlook and you want to move on from this house to another one, maybe I would consider holding off and seeing what this market's going to do. My partners, Dar Colburn and my nephew, Jay Pyburn, they work together at HomeSmart, and they focus on residential real estate, as well as my dad. He's with Realty Executive, so I also have a real estate license, but I'm not near as active as I used to be. But I would definitely not hesitate to give Dar Colburn a call if you're looking at moving here. He's been doing real estate with me, I want to say, since 2000. So 18 years, maybe it was 2001, so 17 years. And my nephew Jay actually has partnered up with Dar, and they're working together. Both great guys. And so, good question. If you have a short-term outlook, I would probably be watching buying right now. If you have, say any more than a 10-year outlook, I think you'll be fine, especially to take advantage of these lower rates. Question here, what Kuyu gloves do you wear? I'll share which gloves I wear routinely. I wear the Peloton 200. You can go to Kuyu.com and go through. They actually have a thing that you can look at all their gloves. The Peloton 200, I actually have several pairs of those, and those are what I wear all the time. They're not waterproof. Excuse me, my thing fell here. They're not waterproof. They're just made out of that Peloton synthetic material, but they definitely keep the chill off. They're definitely a glove that I wear inside of the glassing mitts as well, or the grommet gloves. They give me really good warmth. I also like the guide glove. I like the Petard's leather grip. It's got a real grippy, it's real nice. They're real, I like wearing them kind of tight to my hand, and I really like that guide glove. And then the North Star glove is when it's cold and snowy, and not necessarily snowy all the time, but just a cold glove. I like that North Star. Those are my go-to gloves at the Ot6 Ranch, because you still have full dexterity of your fingers. It's not a mitten. It's a full-on glove, so each one of your fingers, still has dexterity. And then in my pack, I always have the Super Down Pro glassing grommet, which is cool because on both index finger or your trigger finger, you can actually slide your finger out a hole and have full use of it. So if you were gonna, the Kuyu glassing mitts, all four of your pointer finger through your pinky finger are all in one sleeve, if you will. But the grommet's actually a glove where your pointer finger is separate from your other three fingers. So you can open gates. You can get in the gun and pull a trigger if you need to. You can use your rangefinder. Those are the gloves that I wear. Question says, I hear you answering real estate questions a lot. What is your experience and level and background? I got my real estate license in Arizona right out of college after graduation. I started in the business by trial and error. I specialize in vacant land sales from 1997 to 2008. I still have a real estate license to this day. I was extremely fortunate because I was right in the middle of that 2003 to 2008 just boom of real estate here in the Arizona desert. I was like at the peak of my career, so to speak, as firing on all cylinders. I was buying and selling properties, mostly developing vacant land, and buying parcels in bulk, splitting them down, bringing in water, power, phone, bringing in utilities, selling them off to developers, selling them off to small builders, and selling them off to end users, and basically took advantage of that huge upswing in the market before it crashed. And then fortunately, when the market did crash, I had the resources to go out and buy income producing properties. And so I've learned the value of having monthly income. I've learned the value of buying low and selling high. And it's taught me a lot having those, a different type of real estate other than land. And I've been very, very grateful for all that I've learned in the real estate business. My dad is actually a residential real estate agent. He does lots of property management here in the Phoenix area. I think he manages 80 or 90 different rental homes for people and investors, and I've learned a ton from him. So real estate for me is one of those things that I've learned over the years is very, very cyclical, and it's all about timing. And for those of you out there pursuing a real estate career, know that if your timing is correct, you can make a ton of money at the right time. You got to be patient, and the market doesn't lie. You have to follow that market, follow the trend, follow people's buying trends and what have you, and see how they're spending money to be able to predict market cycles. But real estate is a phenomenal thing to invest in if you have, if your timing's right, and it's been a great profession for me for many, many years. So I've had my real estate license, I guess, 21 years now, and I just absolutely love real estate. I love all kinds of real estate. What is a good tripod for binos spotting scopes that's not terribly expensive? I like the slick carbon fiber. I've been using it. I've had the same slick carbon fiber tripod for over 10 years, and that's a ton of hunts. That's a ton of abuse. It's a carbon fiber legs. Really, really like the tripod. I have the 701 RC2 head. I have also a 700, HDV head. I understand they discontinued them. They don't make them anymore. But I've really enjoyed the slick carbon fiber. I'd really look into it. Cody sells them at GoHunt.com gear shop. Make sure to reach out to him at Cody@GoHunt.com or Optics@GoHunt.com. You can also call him at 702-847-8747 extension 2. But definitely check out that slick tripod. Question: best lightweight rain jacket. Northridge thoughts? He's talking about the Northridge, the new Northridge Kuyu jacket. The Northridge is a phenomenal piece for super lightweight, for always carrying in your pack. It's not going to be as durable as the Chugach, and definitely not as durable as the Yukon. The Yukon rain gear by Kuyu is just bomb-proof. I love that rain gear. It's super, super durable and super waterproof. But I think the best all-around is the middle, which is the Chugach. It's kind of the mid-range of putting lightweight together with durability. So if you were just going to buy one, I would probably buy the Kuyu Chugach rain gear. Question here: have you ever done any fishing in Mexico? I've done some offshore stuff out of San Diego, day and 2-day trips going south, down for albacore and such, but haven't done a ton. I've done some fishing out when I was a kid off Rocky Point on a few boats out there, but just not tons of offshore fishing. I haven't done any bass fishing like at El Salto or Angostura or some of the different lakes, Bacharach. I haven't done that down in Mexico, but there's some phenomenal opportunity. Guy says, recently had the Koas stolen. I love them. Would you get them again, or your twin spotter setup, or the BTX? That's a whole podcast in itself, but the Koas are a phenomenal piece of glass. The only thing I didn't like about them were two things. One was the weight of the binocular themselves, and the weight of the tripod. Because they're so heavy, you had to have a heavy tripod, and the fact that they're angled. I'm more of a straight guy. I don't like the angled as much. I owned the Koas for years. Before that, I had the Dr. Super Wide Angle 40s. I thought the Koas optically were better than the Doctors. I never really did like the angled look to them. And then you compare them to the twin spotters that I use now. The key is, people need to understand, the twin Swarovski spotters, the key to that setup is the 25 to 50 wide angle eyepiece. If you don't have the 25 to 50 wide angle eyepiece, I don't believe the twin spotters is a good piece of binocular. So you have to have, in my mind, the wide angle eyepiece for them to have that field of view and to have that sharpness and to have what I'm looking for in that piece of glass. But I do like the fact that they're only 7.5 pounds with the adapter plate. The adapter plate is made out of Prescott, Arizona. Benny Wells at Wells Manufacturing, him and his family make those adapters. They have a machine shop there. I love them because they're a variable. You can be looking at 25. You can find a buck. You can close one eye, go to 50 power, focus. Now you open that eye. Now in that eye you're looking at 50 power. You close the other eye, slam it to 50 power, focus, and now you're looking at that same buck at 50 power. I love the variability of the twin spotters for sure. Now they weigh 7.5 pounds. The next option is the BTX by Swarovski, which is another just phenomenal piece of gear for the amount of weight that it has. It's the lightest weight out of all of them. If you go with the 65 mm, so the BTX is an angled eyepiece, and it works with the 65, the 85, or the 95 millimeter objective. If you go with the 65, you're going to be at 4.14 pounds total, all in, said and done. If you go with the 95, I believe you're going to be at just under 6.5 pounds. So that's the lightest option out of the Koas, the twin spotters, and the and the BTX. The lightest option is that 65 millimeter tube. The heaviest option with the BTX is obviously that 95 millimeter tube. All three are phenomenal. Somewhat splitting hairs when you start talking about them, but for me, right now, because of the angled is the only thing that there's two things that I don't like about the BTX. One is that it's angled, and two, that it's fixed. I wish it had a variable power where you could zoom from 30 to say 50 or 60 power. I don't know if Swarovski will ever make a zoomed BTX, but I can tell you that the BTX for the weight is really hard to beat. So hopefully that answers your question. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning into the podcast. Tried to plow through a bunch of those questions. Hopefully you got some value from them. I really appreciate you guys supporting. Sorry, my voice is getting a little crackly here, but really appreciate you guys supporting the podcast. And I want to ask you guys a favor. If you do listen to the podcast regularly and you're not a subscriber, if you do me a favor and actually subscribe to the podcast, that helps me with my placement on iTunes. And it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. I'm not putting you on a mailing list. You're not getting anything from me. I think you know by now I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to give you good information, things that I've learned. But if you would subscribe, that would mean a lot to me, and I appreciate that. Guys, I'll probably be talking to you when I get back from Mexico. Hopefully you'll be enjoying a lot of these podcasts that we're going to be doing on the Arizona elk and antelope draw. And I just appreciate you guys' support both on my podcast and on my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you can at jscottoutdoors. You can also send me an email if you'd like at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. You can send me a direct message through the Instagram account. And guys, just appreciate all that you do. For me, I appreciate all the interaction, and God bless.